trading day when we get to this evening before the weekend. Possibilities that can shake out this morning. Right now, we have to see how we react here. If we do end up coming down towards that $1.39, $1.40 area, we'll see how we react. Conversely, we have quite the displacement zone right around the $1.48 mark. I tried my best to show the proper interpretation in the image that I showed this morning, and it's pretty simplistic. If we lose that $1.39, there's a target drop zone down to $1.34. And then if that gets lost, that's when it gets interesting. Conversely, if we hold between that $1.39, $1.40, we do have a displacement zone, which could be where shorts could be added in across the board. It would be that bearish rejection zone. And that's just an area that has not been tapped since we had that volatile drop down. So it leaves what's called displacement in the pricing. And it's not a guarantee it comes up there, but often that's a spot where you'll get the bigger players. They line up, they have the trading algorithms, more like the dark pools and the, you can call them the supercomputers. That's where they end up targeting, and that would be a zone where it would give us that confirmation for a further continuation down. However, going into the weekend, it's not a guarantee we'll come up there first, but it is an area that I would pay very close attention to unless we lost that $1.39 area. It seems quite unlikely that we wouldn't retest it, but I've not been, it wouldn't surprise me if we don't. So we'll go over that. I'll mark out on the chart the displacement zone. We'll put a nice little box there and type in the displacement together. I didn't want to do it before we talked. I know we hit on it yesterday, but I wanted to look at it a little bit deeper. Are you okay? Glass just broke. I just want to make sure Julie was okay. But it's a zone of displacement that we could go towards. For Bitcoin, we're down under 70K, and there's an area around 68,000 if we decide to go down there first. So we will have to see how we react to that. But that doesn't mean we're going to go down there right away. So we'll go through on this chart. We'll make sure together we look at this. The best thing we can understand as a community is that in the times of bear markets, yes, it becomes a very disturbing, very tedious, and maybe sometimes depressing cycle now that we're going into month 10 in this bear market. But these are the times when real wealth is made. We have to identify the areas of most possibilities where it would be that makes the most sense, let's just say, to start adding in. There are opportunities to trade back and forth, but understand when you're in a bear market, they become short-term trades. I often get asked a lot, do you hold XRP or other assets long-term or short-term? And it all depends. If we're buying in a bear market and we get towards where I think we're within the last 10 to 15% or maybe even 20% of the bottom, I will continue to hold and I will continue to add into the position. But as of right now, we're nowhere near the bottom. If we fall through the descending wedge formation on the cup and handle in the all-time chart. So these become very quick swing plays. So you're in, you're out, you're trying to increase portfolio without giving it back to the market makers, the institutional investors, and overall the central banks. So that's just something I wanted to start out with. I also wanted to read something to anybody who did not see my little message I posted. It's a message of gratitude to all of you for being a part of this, but I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to the best community on YouTube family. I wanted to take a moment before today's live to send a massive thank you to every single one of you. Reaching over 50,000 subscribers is honestly overwhelming. Looking back at where we started 5 years ago, I never could have imagined this journey. It's been my honor to show up for you every single day for 5 years straight without missing a beat. This isn't just a channel, it's a lifelong dream, and that's fueled by the passion and respect I have for this community. Staying strong through the storm. I know the last 9 to 10 months have been tough. Watching the markets pull back is never easy when it comes to our portfolio and risk assets, but this is where we separate ourselves from the rest. The bear markets are for builders. We know the truth. Nobody ever got rich buying into a vertical bull market. The real wealth is generated right here, in the trenches, when things feel difficult. The knowledge over FUD. We stick together, we share knowledge, and we choose the truth over the noise. Family first. From my family to yours, please know how much we truly appreciate and respect your continued support. We have the greatest community on YouTube because we don't fold when times get lean. We lean on each other. And then I went into the live today, and I said, I can't wait to jump on and talk with all of you in a few hours. We're going to dive deep into the current market structure and keep building that understanding together. See you there, and thank you again for being part of the incredible 5-year journey. And I truly, truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. So good morning. 11:09 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Friday, March 20th, 2026. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So for anybody who didn't see the Fed meeting that took place not too long ago when rates stayed the same, there was a bit of hawkishness there. Jerome Powell, what else is he going to say? He's only got one more meeting to go. He said we're probably only looking at one rate cut this year. He even hinted at the fact we could have a rate hike. That's not going to happen. If we get a rate hike, I would be stunned. There's just too much money printing, and with the prospering of war, it would be quite ironic to have a rate hike when they're printing so much money. But be that as it may, when you don't have rate cuts and the illusion and the fostering of a rate hike or money printing stopping, that's a bearish signal for not only risk assets, but for also gold and silver initially, as the precious metal is completely relying on how much money we're printing versus how much money we're cutting. You know, the printing press is on or off, quantitative tightening versus quantitative easing. So hawkish versus dovish. If we're talking about rate hikes and things like that, no money printing, that's hawkish. If we're talking about rate cuts and money printing, that's dovish, and that's what we want for these markets. So there's a lot of optics to be paying attention to in these markets for sure. The ironic part about this is I can tell we're in the midst of a very trying time in the crypto communities because the viewership and the amount of people who are willing to pay attention to these markets is going down very quickly. My viewership has fallen off the map. I can't even barely pull 800 views during the lives anymore. So it's definitely telling me that we're in the heat of a bear market. The crypto space is teetering to the downside. I understand that there's not very many notifications going around for my channel, which could be playing into that as well. So I'll send out a notification to everybody because I know it's not pushing my content, and I don't know if that's by design or if that's just bad luck, but it happens every cycle. So we're definitely in the heart of this. We definitely have to stay transparent with each other. I'll put these lives out, the notification just for public and then the group, see if anybody gets it. But this is the time where, you know, it becomes trying, maybe not just even for you guys, but for me as well, because it's, you know, it's always a interesting thing to see the viewership fall off by so much. In very big bull pushes, we get 400, 500, 600 people in the lives. I'll get 3,000, 4,000 views in the live. But when it gets to the bearish of times, there might be 70, 80 people in here this time around, which is much better than last time. But only 600, 700, 800, 1,000 views per live. It's a very big change. So, you know, it's just something that I have to adapt with, as well as all of you, because the interest in cryptocurrency is felt far and wide that it's deteriorating. And those are often the signals that these are the times we truly need to watch. Now, what I'm seeing right now is we could have an inverse setup here that will allow us into the displacement zone, and I will simply put displacement up here. Because if you're looking for opportunity, your opportunity probably comes somewhere in this box. It can extend down just a little bit, but if we're being honest with ourselves, it could push all the way up into here as well. But I wouldn't expect it to break too much over this area. If it gets on top of this area, that would be a great sign, just to push back up and maybe try to invalidate some of the drop points. But there's so much work to be done here, in a sense. And yeah, I could come on here and fluff it up and make sure the viewership goes up by just lying to everybody and, you know, making it sound better than it is. I could finesse you. You know, there's no doubt about that. But that doesn't do me any good. It doesn't do you any good. You know, because then we have false expectations. So the best thing we can do is just stay on target, take it as it comes, and then try to build as we get back into a bullish setting. So You know, that's what we have to face as a community. That's what we have to face when we're in risk assets and when we deal with finance. How many people want to come on and they see their portfolio going down every day and then hear that, oh, we're still bearish. Yeah, we have the possibility of coming up to displacement. But after that, more than likely, we're going to come back farther down. You know, it gets a little tedious day after day, I would imagine. I mean, I know it just by talking about it every single day, how tedious it can get. Right now, we're bouncing within that bearish liquidity sweep zone. So we're just going to have to continue to show our due diligence here and try to understand what's happening here. So if we don't get through displacement, that would be our ultimate bearish rejection. We're rather oversold here. And right now you'd be looking for either a hold on this little head here, on this inverse head and shoulders possibly, that could bring us up to displacement. It's not a huge move back up, but it's a move nonetheless. It would be from right here. It's about 3 to 4.5%, 5% in displacement. Could we come back farther? We sure could, because there is also, in my opinion, we have a second displacement zone, but it would be less likely to hit. But it doesn't mean we couldn't wick up there, and it doesn't mean we couldn't invalidate. When you come all the way up here, that I would call this more of a gap area more than displacement. So I'm going to call this a little gap that was unfilled on the way down. We're not going to call this displacement, and we're not even going to talk FVG or CME gaps. We're just going to put a gap area up here, because then it's easier for everybody to maintain that understanding. They won't have to ask the question, is this FVG? It would be an FVG more than likely. But we're just going to talk about gap, left, unfilled, on drop. So could this be a breakaway gap in the shorter time frames? It's possible you could label it that way. But this is what you want to look at for areas to see whether or not we come through. So if we get through displacement, it would be more than likely we'd come up to the unfilled gap. But remember, there's a head and shoulders here. If we were to fall through here, you have the underneath uptrend that you can clearly see underneath right around that $1.40. The pattern set up right around $1.39 before the week ends. And we're going to focus a lot on XRP. See how we back tested here in the futures? This is what gives me hope that we're going to come up to displacement today. Now, if you're trading this and you see us fall below $1.42.6 roughly in that particular chart, understand that this could turn into a very bearish momentous move down to $1.39 possibly. But as of right now, I see a very strong opportunity on this Friday, because what do we like to do on Friday? We like to build in as most people are about to get paid, you know, so that's what I'm looking at right now. Is it a guarantee? Absolutely not. But that does seem to be a strong area of opportunity that we could very well push into a displacement zone this morning. Does this mean be ultra aggressive, open up shorts, go against the grain? No, that's not what it means. What it means, though, is we're looking at that potential here to push into that area, because it's a very, very interesting zone that we need to talk about. So, yeah, rest in peace, Chuck Norris. That was kind of sad to see that this morning, but he was 89 years old. But if you know anything about the Illuminati numbers, that's an interesting one. 8 plus 90, and I don't even want to get into it. But, I mean, if we're talking about that, I mean, 89 years old, or 86, is that what it was? 86, 89, I can't remember. But anyhow, but rest in peace, Chuck Norris. But with these charts, I would love to hear your guys' opinion on what you think is going on here. Do you think we're going to come up to displacement today? Do you think, we're not going to come up there? Do you think there's other things going on? I would love to hear your interpretation. This is the kind of morning where I would love to hear everybody's interpretation of what's going on. I do see a strong possibility of coming into displacement this morning. So I would love to hear what you guys think. Do you guys think we're going to make that run up there? No MQ? No push to displacement. So you think we're just going to fall straight through? That would be the other side of this if we don't have the ability to get up there. It's tricky. Oh no, I'm not. This would not invalidate the move to 86 cents. We are mid-delivery now. Yep, that's true. So if we can't flow up there, because we do have some bearish hourly candles, these are engulfing for the most part to the downside. Um, what would come next then is you would look for a breach, and this is great that we're all talking this morning. It's very important. We would look for a breach now, which we've already had a small breach in the futures chart for XRP, and then that would allow us the ability to push down here and possibly do $1.34 today, and it would invalidate this little bit of a structure. It's a right shoulder building, and the fact that we're pushing down here could very much push us farther down. Gold is gonna tank. Oil is going up. Yep. And if all this is happening going into the weekend, it could be a strong signal that we're gonna have some kind of further outbreak in war. So we've talked about silver. I never want anybody to get trapped with silver. We've talked about the two areas of concern for me. I still think we could come down into that $34 to $39 zone. But I do think it's in a sooner rather than later time we're going to get to that, in my opinion, that displacement zone. Is it a possible entry zone? Yes, but underneath, I mean, I see a huge gap left, a wide area gap as well for silver. But that's neither here nor there. We need to really focus on XRP. Things are not looking great this morning. Would I enter here for a long? Absolutely not. I would look. I mean, I'm not saying it can't come into that displacement, but what I would look for is if we back test, because, man, it's getting tricky here, because on the futures chart, if we could hold this, it's showing us a direct correlation for a bounce up out of that symmetrical triangle, and we could retest. Here, let me put it on this chart too. We could retest this area, but we haven't had a lot of volume. Going into the weekend is always a very dangerous time for crypto. Yeah, I'm going to keep this open here just so we can see it. But this is basically your first layer of attack. Is it going to hold this? And as of right now, we're not holding this in the future side of things. But it remains to be seen what happens here through the morning. We haven't had any real strong volume. But it's my interpretation long term that we're still okay. I think what we're building into is for that possibly August or September timeframe for us to start to push out. But we still need to fill out, in my opinion. We need to fill out this whole technical setup. We have a big cup and handle setup. Yes, it's super bullish in the long term. Like, I don't want to underestimate how bullish we are in the long term, because we have an all-time cup and handle, but that apex of this particular pattern does push us all the way out into August. Now, why would that benefit us going out until August with the cup and handle? Because that would be the perfect timing for when we have the midterms to start pumping the market in August, September through the end of the year when they actually have the elections. Make it look good on both fronts. Help the Republicans possibly maintain. But yeah. Keep getting the chat covered up with ads like the third time, laugh out loud. YouTube trying to sell me. No kidding. See, that sucks. That sucks. I'm gonna have to look deeper to see if there's some way to not have that happen. It's outside of my control. They keep putting it. I haven't seen it on my screen, but they sent us a thing where they said YouTube reserves the right. It might not in the live switch the video to a live commercial, but it said they have the right now to place ads. I tried talking about it a few days ago. It kind of sucks. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. I can't control it, so I'm not going to stress about it. But yeah, YouTube's trying to find any way to build revenue, and it's kind of distracting. Ruben, I'm thinking $1.39 like Tom said, then bounce to $1.48, $1.53. Interesting. That's an interesting thesis there. I like that. $1.47 would be next decision area. I agree with that. I think I have it between $1.47 all the way up to like just over $1.48, $1.49 zone. So I like that a lot, MQ. Carl, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Arm for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Mr. Stott and Bright Future Freedom, thanks for 6+ months with the XP Predictor. MQ, 3+ months with the XP Meteor, along as being a very trusted mod in here, along with Elmer J. Fudd. Hope Botanicals, thanks for 3+ months. Yeah, the volume is getting low. And that's something that we will look at as well. The volume as on the correction being a little lower too could bring us into something, but as of right now, we have to see if this plays out as a little bit of an inverted pattern. This could be the bulls playing though. If the bulls were to pull this back up, it would make more sense to come up into this little zone. It can extend, in my opinion, all the way out to almost $1.50. So it would start I still like that $1.48 to $1.50. $1.47 and some change definitely helps. But I definitely like that zone. Joseph Euler, thanks for the gifted sub, as well as being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Dustin Dennis got gifted the sub. How awesome is that? Congratulations on getting that first month gifted sub with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. Excellent. Thanks for that show of support. I really appreciate that. Means a lot, actually. MQ says that's an FVG. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes, yes. I know I called it a gap area, but that's why I was saying it's technically an FVG up there. But anyhow, this zone of $1.47, I think would be a strong hitting case, especially with what I'm seeing setting up here, because unless this breaks down, which is very possible it will, it is showing a little sign of an inverse pattern here. So boom, boom, boom. Low, low, low. So shoulder, head, shoulder. If this doesn't get invalidated, it's showing us the optic to come up into these zones higher up. I don't know why it... Oh, this is the other chart, but I don't know why it looks like that, because it wouldn't make any sense. Guess I could see it on top of this wick, possibly. Do that higher wick. I do like that area a lot to start tapping into if we come up. So yeah, we'll watch this together in real time and see how this unfolds. Right now, kind of stuck in the middle. Yemen is located south of Emirate. They control entering tankers into the sea. They are Iranian secondhand. They wait for order to close the entry from Iran. Yep. That is very good information. And oftentimes when these attacks go deeper, we wait until the weekend because then the markets are closed. And it just always seems to be ironic that it would happen on a weekend. So if something big is going to happen, it would probably be this weekend. Noob Sauce, thanks for the 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. I love the conversation in the comments. A lot of good information there. So what are we watching for anybody who just came in? We're watching in the futures right now because it's open till 6 p.m. roughly. We're looking to see if we bounce off this support. And the way it's set up, we have a shoulder, head, shoulder. So this tells me that we really have a chance to come up into, I'm just calling it a displacement zone. You call it a gap zone, call it whatever you want. But we have the price displacement. So I'm looking for that price appreciation possibly here to $1.48. Unless we invalidate the structure. So, and then if we invalidate this, we'd come down near that $1.39. And then if we lose that, it would come down to $1.34. We still know the short-term technical target would be that the descending triangle down to 86.6 cents. So we still need to pay attention to all of this. It's a very critical and dangerous spot. Would I be going long here long-term? No, I would not. Could you look for a short entry? Possibly if we come back into displacement in the higher gap areas, absolutely. But it is a very, very tricky time right now to try to make a long-term decision, in my opinion. This is just, for risk assets, this is not the best news that we've seen. I'll be honest with everybody, with the optics of no rate cut, staying the same. But remember, Jerome Powell came out a little hawkish too. So when you get hawkishness, you get a immediate price depreciation in risk assets, gold and silver, and things like that. I think XDC was a brilliant viewpoint of what was happening right now. XDC overnight went up, but as you can see, XDC is about to invalidate this structure. It even came up, pushed into that little resistance box, and now it immediately reversed its course. In lieu of any kind of real volume, we find ourselves very stressed out in the market. Becomes a very tedious time. But these are the times that if we can just get on top of this and pay attention through the entire drop of the bear market, this is the time you make real wealth. The wealth is not made in the bull market, and I cannot stress that enough. Real wealth was never created in a bull market. It was created by the distinct understanding and continued dedication for oneself through the bear market and trying to find the proper areas of entry. These are the times that are the least interesting for most, because most people that are investing, they want to see price appreciation. However, price depreciation in a long-term view gives you the opportunity to run through these markets in a real defined way, in a very defined way. Why is XDC the canary in the room? Seems to show where everything is going more now than ever. Because I think it's running a little bit quicker than the rest of the market. I think it's doing its own thing in a faster sense, in my opinion. Carl, but that's a great question. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Smackimation says, Tom, completely agreed. We can make wealth with proper areas of entry. Thank you for teaching me this. Oh, you're welcome, my friend. But it's going to be our job to continue to, try to teach others that come in, because the retention rate's not going to be great. Because if you come in here and just think about it this way, if you're investing in a portfolio and you want to watch different people try to push a narrative, you want to see somebody, at least this is just a retail, this is just a human nature. You want to see somebody pushing the narrative that you want to hear. So most people that come in here are going to see, oh, wait a minute, I'm investing, but he's saying that we're still in a bearish market for the last 10 months. And now we have to look for the smaller zones. Even any kind of rally is going to get caught off guard because we just don't have the volume. That's not what everybody wants to hear, in my opinion, but it's what everybody needs to hear. And if we can come up with a real plan, like I still think we're coming up to those displacement style zones, or we have that the priced in areas where we should be tapping. That's just my personal belief. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but that's something that I've been paying attention to all morning. It really is. It's just something I've been paying attention to all morning. Now, what could change my mind is if we come below that $1.40. It's not even a big drop. That $1.42.7. So the risk reward here is that if you buy in here, you're only looking to retap and validate this death cross here in the smaller time frames. That's all we're really going to do here if you were to buy in here. So, I mean, don't get trapped in a moment like this. We're trying to build into something deeper. So, the Tucrium CEO said Ripple could win a full banking license, holds 40 million XRP in escrow. And a licensed Ripple might push XRP USD toward $3 via on-chain and traditional finance links. In time, maybe, but not just right now. Look at gold in 1979. Just look back at the commodities around Iran-Iraq war. That's great optics that you're looking at. You definitely have a great understanding of what's happening here, MQ. Beautiful understanding. Seeing silver back under $70. I mean, we're not surprised here. But it's a continued downtrend that we're looking at. And that happens, when we're not getting the proper, let's just say the proper talking points out of the Fed. It weighs very heavily on precious metals and risk assets and things like that. That's what happens. So we'll see if we come up during the displacement during this live. We'll see how this continues to build. And we'll watch this together, no doubt about it. We'll continue watching this together to see if we can come up into those zones. That's what I'm looking at this morning. So, fire sale on physical silver. I don't think we're to the lowest point. So, yes, it's a fire sale, but I think we still should go lower on silver if I'm just being honest. I really would like to see this morning while we're live, see us come up to that $1.47, $1.48 zone and get that rejection going into the weekend. I think that would be the best optic. What often happens too, if you're new on Fridays, the market makers know that you can trap a lot of retail because people get paid on Fridays. We often see this upward tug in the early part of the day, even into the early weekend sometimes. But then by the end of the weekend, you usually see the price end up depreciating back down. It's not a fun thing, but it is something that happens quite often. So are we going to be surprised to see a little bit of a price rally? No, not at all. In fact, I expect it to happen. That's why we started out talking about these little, I'm calling it displacement. And then over the top, we've got what I believe is like a gap area that is probably an FVG over the top, but you know, it's not a CME. This would be more of a gap area that's left. I could further type this in just so it makes more sense because a CME is when the futures is close. So clearly it's a gap area, an FVG style gap. So here, FVG. Why didn't it type it in? Huh. That's interesting. Did not type it in. F. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. So you could call these the FVG gap areas if you want. I was just going to put a gap area, but I guess it would confuse some. So, but that's the gap left up there over the top. So, God, tiring. Hard to bite my tongue. I'm sorry, T. Displacement into FVG would make bullish MSS. I'm sorry, I'll shut up. Why would you shut up? I'm not saying it's coming up into that area. I'm talking about that's just what's over the top. I don't think that it's gonna come up there. I think it would hit displacement and probably get left short. You know, I think it would be left down. But yeah, if it comes up over the FVG, obviously, you know, it would be more bullish. That would be the bullish continuation section if it ended up doing something like that. Never bite your tongue. I completely agree with you. That's why I put it up there just in case. Don't bite your tongue though, MQ. You're one of the smarter people when it comes to all of this in the community. So never bite your tongue. I don't see a way to get past displacement though. That's my problem. Unless something crazy happens, I want to use that displacement zone as a further rejection zone. That's all. But whether or not it happens is, you know, we won't know that for a few hours still. But yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. 100%. 100%. But don't shut up. I want you to keep talking. Higher time frame supply. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Well, that's why I said I label it a little bit different than everybody else for my own personal understanding. But yeah, that would be the supply load up on the higher time frames. I get that. I get that. Here, I'll label it like you have it. How about that? Then we won't cross our signals, huh? How about that? Then we won't cross our signals. It's just something I put for my own understanding. So here. How about this MQ? Just so we don't cross ourselves up. That's why oftentimes you won't see me label it at all. I'll leave it unlabeled. So, but yeah, this is definitely a gap area. I just like calling it displacement. That's just something I like calling it because then I get a better understanding myself. But technically we should be accurate. We should be accurate. Whoops. And an FVG is just a fair value gap for the one who asked that. So we'll see. We'll see how we react here if we're going to come up there or not. So, anyhow. What did that? Let's see. Any other questions? No. Okay. So the big key takeaway here is if we come up there, we're going to have to hold this. We're going to have to hold right now. We redecide as it would create bullish MSI. Yes, indeed. Hey, no. All love MQ. I'm going to keep it straight and narrow. I'll keep it straight and narrow. I'll get rid of my own disparities. Yeah, it's a fair value gap FVG. Noob Sauce, thanks for 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. And also the gifted sub to CCG. That is incredibly generous. Congratulations, CCG, for that gifting that sub and getting your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. And that is my face superimposed on there. And as MQ said, if we could get above this gap area, that would create a possible bullish reconfiguration here. So the odds of getting above there, in my opinion, are very slim to none. But I've been wrong before. I've been wrong before. And then obviously if you go into the supply zone, that would just create a bullish continuation if you got on top of it. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. Do we think it's going to get above there? No, I really don't. But I do still think we can tap that gap area. How about that? I think we can tap that gap area. I think it's something that we can technically come up on top of. What's a good area for a swing trade? I mean, you're playing with fire today to get into a swing trade. Technically, if you're looking for a swing, you'd be playing you'd be playing the market setup on a Friday, and you'd just be looking for this to hold at this little bit of a symmetrical triangle on the futures chart, and you'd be just playing that back up to probably the $1.47 to $1.48. Is not a very big play at all, but that is not a guarantee. That is not a guarantee. Yeah, Donald J. Trump needs to shut his damn. Oh, I know. He's been coming out running his mouth a lot, and it's been leading to some interesting takes, obviously. But he's only coming out with based on what they know, the trading algorithm. They know the deeper algorithm, so they speak when certain actions are going to happen regardless. So, the charts are predicting these nonsensical talks. But we don't want to get into politics. We'll get rid of more people that come in here as well. Michael says 80 to 86 cents. Oh, you mean like for a long-term entry, Michael? Well, for a long-term entry, I'm absolutely looking at your zone you're talking about. And yeah, it can extend into the mid 50-cent zone. But if we're looking at this from a long entry point where we would want to take advantage, absolutely. I think MQ's pretty much in agreement with this, with the way that this is set up with the all-time cup and handle and with the descending wedge. If we're talking about the 86-cent zone, it would happen sometime in March or April, but I think MQ's also looking at that August-September area, if I'm not mistaken. So I think the best opportunity would be to play this out and see it come into this area, because isn't it a lot better optics that if we come down into that 55, 60-cent zone and hit the apex of this descending wedge on the handle, that if we come into August, that it would be a much better opportunity, because I think when we come into the midterms, it makes it a much better optic to see XRP and crypto as a whole, because I think Bitcoin still needs to come down into that minimum 59K zone. So think about it. If we come all the way to the apex out in August, that first move up is going to be 300 to 400%. And let's say we go into the apex and we come down here, that first big move could get you up to about close to the $3 mark. And just look at an optic going into midterms. That would be a better than 300% move. And then if we hold that, we know the top potential here. And once we break out of that, we do have a technical move up all the way to $6.41 is my own projection. So yeah, that would be the best optic for where the best long-term entry, in my opinion, to where we could sit on it for a couple of years if we have to. Just like in 23 and 21 before, even though 21 didn't last long. But I think that this is the first area we could possibly start looking at. And then, like MQ said, for a breakout into September, October would be a nice area, but we don't know exactly when. Yes, this can get us out likely into September. But yeah, that's the optic I'm looking at. And anything short of that, I don't think there's any reason to do it outside of like the nice swing trades if you're a leverage trader. And there's not a link in my actual video, but the only one that I trust to do the leverage trading side is BITUNIX. I know MQI is on other things as well, but for me, the only one that I truly, and it's in my video description below, or I mean in my on my homepage, on my video links, BITUNIX on the bottom. Now, I know some people want to send super chats, but they don't want to worry about if YouTube takes anything. You can always send me it through Venmo and PayPal if you feel more comfortable like that. And then the live classes they're not just live, they're actually after as well. You can watch them anytime, but that's where you can find my links. I don't want to put the BITUNIX in the YouTube chat here. I want it to be based around the classes and education. But that's what I use for leverage trading. If I do leverage trade, Fees are low. I've never had an issue in a couple of years. So if you're wondering, I've had a lot of questions about that. That's where you can find that. But I would really remember, if you're leverage trading, anything over a 5x is gambling. Even 10x, okay, if you have a nice stop loss and things like that. But that's only a 10% market movement. At least on a 3 to 5x, you give the market time to work. And nobody wants to be greedy. Remember, if you're a leverage trader in the futures market, or I mean, well, futures is different, but in the leverage side of it, small gains, guys. You're not looking to break the bank. You're not looking for these extraordinary gains. So if you get up 30, 40% on a 3% move or 5% move, start to layer out. That's what these short-term movements would be for. Now, more people will be building into a short if it comes up to $1.47, $1.48, I would imagine. That would be just an addition for most to add to shorts. But yeah, that's what you'd be looking for. But that, I don't like to talk about the leverage side. I can give info about it, but I like to talk about our spot positioning. So if you're in here, our main objective as a community is to let this play and try to get back into the bear market lows. And yeah, it's going to take time. It wasn't built overnight, these bear markets. So, you know, it's a big thing to pay attention to, these chart setups. And right now, there is nothing to worry about. We absolutely can see the grand setup here of a cup and handle. And I'll continue to say it. These descending wedges on a long-term cup and handle, in my opinion, are extremely bullish. And you know what? I keep realizing a lot of people want me to turn the comments on my tablet again because they can't see it after the live, because YouTube only puts out comments when it's posted, not from the live itself. So I may start doing this. Whoops. I may start doing this again so everybody can see the comments after. Is that okay with everybody? Because I think that's what I'm going to have to start doing so that everybody can see this after the lives as well. Otherwise, you're not in tune with what's going on in the actual live. I don't like how YouTube does that. That they don't show it unless it's the comments from after the live is posted. So maybe I will start doing, I have the ability to do that on my tablet. So yeah, you'll get a talking thing across the left side, but at least you'll be in tune what's going on with the conversation in the lives, if that makes sense. Carl says still trying to recruit from the October tank. Yeah, I know a lot of people are for sure. Q, the Bitcoin bottom will be around 40K. Could see that. Could absolutely see that. Bitcoin right now, I have it set up. I know the 59K is the minimum, but I do agree with you. I have it down 50. And then if it were, the only problem is, if it comes down below like 50K, we could find ourselves in a big problem, because that little cup and handle, that back test would be around 50 at the lowest. And if it comes below that, it could bring in a whole new optic to this market. There's a big bear flag that's possibly putting itself in. Could you imagine, MQ, if we came all the way down into that 27,000 zone? I don't really want to come down there. 48,000, maybe we could find ourselves at the bottom of this little area where we haven't filled through. If we come to 44, we're going to be in some trouble. We are going to be in trouble. Yeah, it doesn't show me live chat replay, if I'm being honest, on mine. Noobsaw says, time to learn as much as possibly from this community. Absolutely. This would be the time. This would be the time. This would definitely be the time. Mark Casson, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Bad. CJ2 Pilot, thanks for over 2 years with the XRP 589 Moon Badge. So I'll just keep that on the corner. If you are worried about KYC, the Telegram. Yep. I agree with that. Garbanzo, thanks for 6+ months with the XP Predictor. Let's see. Okay, that's great comments this morning. Great comments. For Bitcoin, just little areas of concern, but that 50, it's actually might be a little bit lower than that if we're looking at it like this. It's actually down at like 55, but the first area I'm looking at is 59. I'm looking at 59K as that first real area. 55 would still be technically on the top if you're looking at it like this on the cup and handle. So there's Now, if you extend it out, it's going to be even worse. But these are just things that are popping off right now in the charts that you can't ignore them. I can't ignore them. You can't ignore them. It's something that's happening right now. We can't ignore this stuff. So I think, yeah, that's another optic that we have to deal with. That's why I could see a little bit of price movement today leading into the coming into the weekend. If I'm being honest, MQ, I want to see a trap trying to be set here going into the weekend. It often happens right before a prospering of war over the weekend. So that's why I still think we have an opportunity to come up into that $1.47, $1.48 area as a rejection zone. It would be an ultimate confirmation, and then it would probably drive us down pretty damn hard. But I honestly, I'm not betting my life savings on it. I can tell you that. You DM me the info. Oh, thank you so much, MQ. If that's on the Telegram, do you mind if I pull that up so everybody can see it? Um, Obviously, I don't want to pry into your personal stuff, but okay, I can look at that because you put it in the overall, so you're letting everybody in the community see it. I never want to pry into anybody's personal business, but I see you put that on the actual Telegram, which is phenomenal. Where did I just see that? So MQ put this out for all of us. So for anyone in the U.S. or in any country that restricts access to BitGet, a lot of members are running into the same issue. So here's the solution most global traders use. You can apply for the Palau Digital ID, which is a government-issued digital residency from the Republic of Palau. It's not a passport or citizenship. It's an official ID that you can use for KYC on platforms that allow alternative residency verification. This gives you government-verified ID for KYC. Digital residency status, zero tax on foreign sourced income, optional physical ID if you visit Palau, 180-day stay allowance per entry, works with a VPN for exchange access. Most people use it strictly for KYC so they can trade on platforms that block or restrict their region. And there's a link. Thank you so much for that information, MQ. So anybody on there, that's great information. I'll go through and vet this myself so I can get more information on it. I've seen you talk about this before, so I'm not unfamiliar with this. So yeah, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Bearded Viking, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Arm for 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. We continue to pray for Mighty Marcus's continued good healing. And, we pray to our Lord and Savior, Yahweh, Yeshua, Emmanuel, Jesus Christ, for that continued guidance and the hand over, putting his goodwill and faith over Mighty Marcus and your entire family. Amen. So out of everybody in the community, up or down on this Friday with the prospering of war? Do you think we're going to come up to that $1.47, $1.48? Or do you think it's just straight down from here? No opinions wrong. Carl down. Smackamation, yes, I do. Smackamation says up. So up to the $1.47, $1.48 first before a further drop. Perfectly legit. Excellent. Up then down. Garbanzo up to $1.47. Notice even everybody who says up is not thinking it's going to go any higher than $1.47, $1.48. Up then down, says Mark Caston. I'm thinking down, but I'm always wrong. Don't put yourself on the spot like that, noob. You do a great job trying to understand the information. That's why we try to show these gap areas and these displacement zones or the high time frame supply or HTF supply zones and everything in between, the CMEs. And the reason I started to not put any of the gap mentioning or anything like that most times down, I just draw the line of liquidity box, we'll just call it, is because it's easier for me to show everybody who doesn't understand, because these supercomputers, you have the HFTs, which are high frequency traders. These are simply the traders, but they don't actually make the trades themselves. They actually use supercomputers and locations not on site to make the trades for them, and it happens much quicker than we can do as a retail. So they take advantage of it. So that would be the high frequency traders. And it's a thing that if you don't understand, it's very hard to explain. MQ is very familiar with it, I'm sure, with the supercomputers and things like that. They have their own algorithms. Some are off-site, but they get a quicker look at the market than we could ever try. Crypto Cooter, thanks for being a very trusted mod in here and been Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I told you so badge. Says gotta go up and sucker some suckers first. And on Fridays we often do that. That's why I still think we could do that. Is it a guarantee? Absolutely not, but it's something that I really want to pay attention to on this Friday. And then just be cautious. If you're in some kind of trade and we get up there, don't hesitate. Like, you're not looking to break the bank here. If you're in a swing trade, that it's in the definition, swing trade, which means in and out. Even if it's like a 5% profit, you're looking for a swing trade, but you're also looking for, you know. But the one thing I don't like here is the fact that the only thing I don't like here is that Bitcoin, I'm being honest, if we're looking for a move up, is that Bitcoin already came up into this, what I deemed this little zone of liquidity that we needed to tap before a further move down. And it did, in all essence, come up here overnight up to that 71,400. That leaves me a little cause for concern. That's the biggest load crap, sick of crypto. What does that mean, Marty? What's the biggest load of crap? Not exactly sure what you're referring to. But yeah, your mindset is exactly why retail loses all the time. You're getting sick of it when you should be the most interested in it right now, because this is where you build your portfolio when it comes down to where it needs to go. Or you pay attention in case it does break out and flip this into a more bullish momentum. Yeah, but this is the mentality. This is why across the board, we're way down in the crypto sector. There's not a lot of people who are showing interest in this sector anymore. Oh, you're building a clog bot. Ooh, that's actually pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. You're trying to take advantage of those movements faster than we can as retail if you're doing something like that. That's pretty fascinating. It's like, even if we wanted to gain momentum, we're not getting. We bounce off $1.42.8, but I mean, it's not looking pretty here. Another cause for concern to me is a couple days ago we came right back up into this area. So we'll just see. We'll see how this plays out as a whole. But right now, oh, crypto as a whole, Marty, I see what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense to me. But Marty, I promise you, this is why you've got to be in here and be patient. You've got to watch this for what it is. We've got to watch these areas for what they are. It's just the truth. This is the time of the great deception. This is the time of the great deception. We have to be trading like the market makers and the institutional investors and try to understand what the central banks are trying to command here. It's the truth. That's all we can do. It is very frustrating. I won't disagree with that. It is super frustrating. Super frustrating to try to do this, but you can't work against the makers. Biotech, you're short until it taps $1.18. Love it. I don't hate that. Don't hate that. So if you're not in a short, it's either you get in or get left behind MQ. Yeah, I know. And it's starting to become a much wider thing now in the new age of trading, because 80% of the volume now that's created is through the AI algorithm, which is scary now in 2026. It's either 70 or 80%. I can't remember the exact number. Also, 70% of volume we see in 2026 is not, it ends up getting taken off the book. So they have fake orders. And I think it's a 70% clip. It's pretty insane how much it is. So yeah, it's either we get used to this or we get left behind. And a lot of a lot of people come in here too now and they see what we're talking about and they're like, I can't possibly keep up with this. It's too much. I promise you, it's not too much. It's daily repetition. The daily repetition will put you ahead. It's the daily repetition. The more you see, the more you learn, the more you understand, the more you can recognize things before they even happen. And right now we took the elevator up, took the stairs. It looks like we're taking them down. So you've got the right channel, and Marty, Tom. Oh, I appreciate that, Nick Nack Paddywhack. I really appreciate that. It's not just me though. It's having people like you and MQ and Nick and so many others that come in here every single day, and we try to push this together. Also with the API link in Polybot. Interesting. I would love to see that progression, MQ. I would love to see that progression taking shape. That is awesome. You're definitely trying to stay ahead of the game. There's no doubt about that. I love hearing that. Elmer J. Wow, Elmer, thank you so much for the gifted sub. It goes to Clips by Swifty. Excellent. And we're not talking about Taylor Swift, I don't think. Maybe we are. Oh, click. Maybe we are. Clips by Swifty. Maybe that would be your Swifty, a Swift fan. But thanks for the gifted sub, and congratulations, Clips, for getting that first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. And that is my face superimposed on that emoji badge. Bitcoin's fighting right now a little bit. Hasn't pulled out any real fundamental push, just like XRP's pushing and fighting a little bit. But we often like to fight on Fridays, right as the USA is getting paid. Most people in the USA weekly or every other week get paid on a Friday. I will keep on in emails, menu planning, market catering orders, trades, etc. Excellent. And everybody, if you're in the Telegram, make sure you're following MQ. He gives a lot of guidance if you're looking for the leverage side of things. Real guidance, not just, hey, take a trade out and hope and pray. No, he gives real guidance of what's going on. He will answer questions if he's available. It's a really spectacular thing, actually. It's a spectacular thing. And we're pretty unified there in the Telegram. So all you have to do is watch out for all the people that try to take advantage of us. They replicate who I am. And they lie about what I do, or they lie about being me to try to scam people. It sucks. And I've reported them to Telegram, but Telegram doesn't do anything. It sucks. In all essence. Nothing's really changed in this entire live. We've been here an hour, but nothing's really changed. Bearded Viking says best community on YouTube, hands on. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for that, Bearded. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. We'll work through this slowness too in the community. Once it gets back into a bull market, I promise you this is going to go flying, and we're going to have so many comments. It's going to be hard to keep up. When we were in the bear market last time, I only had like 30, 40 people in the live. So just seeing a 60% increase roughly, or 50% increase, even on the slow days, that's motivating to me. It's motivating to me. That tells me that more and more people are more interested in the bear market this time around. Really is. Best teamwork available on YouTube. Thanks for that, the Cannabis Podcast. And that's because of all of us. It's everybody in the community that is putting into this together. And thanks for being a very trusted mod in here and in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. I promise you all, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. And me personally, I would not be opening up a short right here. I'd be waiting until it gives another opportunity at $1.47, $1.48 to see how we react to that gap area. That's just my opinion. If it doesn't give you that opportunity, don't overextend yourself. I just think that we're in a very weird spot right now if you're trying to go short because you haven't got that next confirmation. The last time to go short would have been on that rejection around $1.56. 1970 Legend, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Says Chuck Norris doesn't die because death is scared of him. He is just existing without his body. I love it. I love it. And unfortunately, you suffered a very bad defeat yesterday to TCU, down 16 at half. Ohio State came all the way back to take a 9-point lead with about, 6 minutes to go, and then lost on a last-second shot, which heartbreaking. But Ohio State, for some reason, in the NCAA tournament, they're just not able to get out of the early rounds right now. I think you have a good coach that's building something, but you got to get over the hump at some point. So I can only imagine how you feel this morning, because that was a great comeback. It was a great comeback. Yeah, I know. I didn't want to bring it up, 1970 Leds, and the Big Ten kind of took it on the chin yesterday a little bit. Had a couple defeats we suffered. Wisconsin got humiliated and upset by High Point after having a 19-point lead, which was the biggest shock in my opinion. MQ says, good advice, Tom. We are in mid delivery. Yeah, I always hate the mid delivery point to try to go short or long, depending on which side you're looking at. It's a trap area. Because even if you got in on a short and you did right, the optics are retail on average does a 35x leverage trade. That's the average leverage trade taken out by retail. So imagine you took out a 35x and you did it right, but you bought in here. It goes up to $1.48. Now all of a sudden you've got yourself on the outside looking in, and then your short still might be right. But we're not looking at the proper entry points. Even on a long, it's the same thing. It just depends what side of the equation we're on. Right now it just happens to be we're in this big downward tug, so you'd be looking for more of a confirmation for a short. Again, even if you're going long, you're in a midterm delivery point because it would have been better to go long for this swing at around $1.39.5, $1.40, which we tapped. So now you're still in the mid delivery point, even if you're going up for a long swing. So it's in even long or short, we're kind of in a weird spot in the midpoint of it. I like how you said the mid delivery point. It's not, and now Bitcoin back over 70K. If this happens, it's going to be quick. It'll go from 143 to 147, 148, almost in an hour or two, in my opinion. But then you're going to have to be very much on the ball if it does that. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm being directly honest. MQ's not sugarcoating it. He's being directly honest with the mid delivery point. That is a 100% fact. And we could just be coming up to rejection at 70K. We don't know. Right now, we're trying to look to see if we can get over 70. My biggest problem still is we already came up to that 71K area. That's a big problem for me right now. Because if we wouldn't have done this, I'd have said, oh, we still have to do this. But the fact we came up into here already is a problem. Now, could we come back up here and test where the 20 is about to cross the 200? Okay, maybe. But it still leaves a lot of optics. Now, the one good thing about this MQ is in the 4-hourly, we've got this wick pull up, and you see this little wick pointing out the top. Technically, if this candle doesn't make a new low and we can push up, technically this is angled up here on the push out. Much like how these pulled down and had this wick to the downside and it layered us down. This could be an open opportunity based on what it's showing. So there's a lot of mixed messages in here with what we're seeing. A lot of mixed messages in here. I just don't want anybody to get trapped in the mid-delivery point. That's all. Whether you're going long or short, find confirmation on either side. And in all essence, these are swing trades we're talking about, not long-term holds by any stretch of the imagination. There's things that have to be, there's optics that have to be met for this to be a long-term trade. The Angels almost couldn't fly Chuck Norris into heaven. Due to the weight of the Angels can curl 2 tons each arm too. Interesting. I love it. Buy support, sell resistance plan. Good. See, that's the best advice we could ever get. Buy support, sell resistance. Buy support, sell resistance. Absolutely. XRP right now, I think if it's going to go up, it had to come down here and grab a little bit more of a supply here in this region, which it's doing right now if it goes up. And then in the next 5 to 10 minutes, you'll just see it reverse back up near $1.44 if that's the case. So, that's just my opinion. If we don't do that in the next probably hour, there's less of a chance we're going to go up to that area that's a gap. So, Scotty Lowry, better late than never, my friend. And thanks for being in Townsend for over 3 months with the XRP Meteor. Love it. Thank you, Plant Good Seas, for the 3+ months as well with the XRP Meteor. Thank you so much. And the beauty is you can always go back and watch what you missed already. $2.01 was your support. Yeah, that's an interesting area you speak of, because that was a big area that when we failed, because that's over the top right now. And that once was a big support structure. Now, if we even came up here, which we rejected again, obviously, we'd have to come up here and somehow push past like $1.80 and then ultimately higher. We're in a big mess right now. That's not that big. We're in a big mess right now. It's actually right here. But we're in a big mess area. So, there's a lot to be desired here in this market. A lot. A lot of people are going to get burned in this market. It is what it is. I mean, I wish I could say something different. It is what it is. Plant Good Tea says, thank you for the valuable class. Oh, you're welcome. I've been having a lot of good insight from the ones taking the class, a lot of positivity from everybody too. I think it's a home run as well. I like how we split it up into phases and you have the ability to join live or not. You know, we all have our own lives we're dealing with and the flow that we're going through. Right now, as of right now, Bitcoin has gotten rejected at 70K on this follow through. Not the greatest signal. Um, V chain right now. I mean, everything looks like it's building possible head and shoulder patterns, shoulder, head, shoulder. There's still that optic. We could come up a little bit more here. So we're still waiting to see if we get confirmation for a further drop down or if we do come up into these little zones. Bitcoin got rejected just over 71K earlier. Lowe says, I'm here to tell you Dogecoin weekly is bottoming. Interesting. I'll have to take a look at Bitcoin or Dogecoin for the later live. I don't want to talk about anything more than really XRP in this live. I really wanted to have defined order this afternoon with XRP and Bitcoin because it's so critical right now. I'm still curious, though, about this little wick pointing up here, if that's something to be watching after we pushed up. I'm always curious when something like this happens after a pull down and then this little pull up here, if that's trying to tell us something, you know, that we're a little early still for this next drop point and we're just waiting for one last rejection. So that's something I'll keep my optics and my eyes on. So my mom's here with us. She just got here while I was doing my live. T, he's going through his psychological stage. He's been able to hold his formula down through his G-tube. Now I got all 8 ounces. But when he gets to the last stage after he has throwing up and stuff of sicknesses, he clenches his mouth, won't swallow, won't drink anything or eat anything by mouth. So hopefully we'll get through this psychological stage in the next day or two and he can go back to school Monday. But yeah, this is the standard operating procedure with our son. So it's, you know, I appreciate all the prayers that have been given. They're definitely helping. Clean update on XRP and Bitcoin posted, headed out to work here soon. I'm cute. Thank you for that too. I will look at this right now. Let's see. Whoops. So here's MQ's update. Excellent. So the distribution zone over the top. Order blocks bearish at about $1.4780, $1.47. We got little supports underneath. I like this a lot. And then you got, excuse me, long shorts trapped up there on that push up, nor that, ironically, right in that descending triangle area. And that was the fuel for the downside. And it even had an overextension out to about $1, I believe 60 it was on that rejection. So I like that a lot. I like that. The way you have that set up. Be safe, MQ, on your way out to work. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate you and all your dedication you've given to this community. You've given us so many deeper insights. It's incredible. It really makes me feel good, too, about certain things because I can bounce my ideas off of you as well. I can see what I'm thinking compared to what you're seeing and so on and so forth. I hope I offer that same value to you as well, my friend. I'm pretty sure I do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be putting so much into the community. But yeah, have a good day at work and God bless you, my friend. You can clearly see the topping reversal on XRP though. There's a very clear topping reversal here as well. I don't think silver miners are a good buy right now. The good buy was late 24 into January of 25. And then sometime during the year when we had those corrections. But that's why we got out at the top. We didn't want to ride the bottom wave. So now we got to wait to see if silver fills down. It's either, in my opinion, down towards 53 to 59. Or we could even come as low as, I don't want to say it on silver, but we could come down even to 35 we haven't filled. Oh, Bitcoin's right above it. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, perfect. So Bitcoin, long time frame supply and redistribution zone. Late longs get trapped at 71.1. And the problem is we already came up there. That's why I'm having a hard time right now understanding if we're going to come back there or not. Distributions all the way up at 74,745. Stop loss invalidation of shorts around 73,000. Oh, this is great information. 73,725. Excellent. Yeah, that's my hope as well, MQ, that we all learn a little something here together. And I appreciate the confidence you have in me as well. Because obviously you don't need me. You're smart enough. You know this enough. And now these are the dollars would be the take profit zone. And not even just sell all the way out. But if you want to, we always talk about how you slowly exit the position when you're in leverage. So the first take profit zone would be somewhere around that 66K. Then you can advance your way out a little bit more at 63.5 roughly, and then a little bit deeper around the 60,600 to 61,000 because you're trying to slowly exit the position as you hit each of these because they become more volatile because you have more of a chance in these zones where he's putting it to have a retest farther up. So you slowly start to exit the position. And then as it comes back up, you can always re-enter it without losing your overall average and just keep working that way. I like how he does that too. Layering in and layering out. It's the best advice. When you layer in and layer out of these, it's the best advice. Um, So yeah, that's where we're at this morning, everybody. I hope this live helped everybody. I'm gonna go see and make sure my mom and T are doing good. Thank you all so much for the continued support. It was a great live, an hour and 11 minutes, anywhere between 75 and 85 people in here. You know, we got the majestic group right now, the majestic bunch that wants to know, wants to learn, that understands that real wealth isn't made in the vertical bull markets, they're actually made in the downward spiral of bear markets. So for that, I appreciate all of you. Thank you all so much. And please, please, if you have to rewatch this again, I don't want anybody getting trapped in this market if they don't have to. And honestly, just pay attention to what we talked about. You know, don't get trapped in zones that aren't warranted and getting trapped in. You know, I want you guys to protect your capital at all costs, and then we can move in unison. So thank you all so much. And let's try to